Well, I just hit live stream and I'm going to hit record and I'm going to turn my video off probably just while you're talking to save bandwidth. But we are live now. We are recording now. Ladies and gentlemen, Rex Bear Leak Project. How the heck are you? It is a fantastic day today out here in Southern Colorado. And we have an awesome guest with us tonight. We have Jimmy Blanchette. He is a radio expert, a documentary producer, and he also has an incredible radio tower communication system that is, I mean, it's par or above par versus many actual professional radio stations. And Jimmy sends these signals into outer space, and oftentimes something comes back. Let me share something with you real quick. Throughout history, non-human intelligences have been manifesting the keys of the universe while patiently waiting for humanity to decode and use this sacred knowledge in order to free itself from its current dependencies and limitations, and embrace a new perspective on physics that is the potential of transforming human civilization as we know it. Now, this is going to be an incredible interview. Really looking forward to this. You are going to provide several examples of such manifestations containing sacred knowledge, and you're going to introduce a new set of powerful physics equations based on geometric harmonics and sacred geometry. Did I say that right?
That was exactly right. Thank you so much, Rex, for having me on the show. Really appreciate the opportunity. It's going to be, I think, very interesting. I do have a lot of materials, several dozen slides, several video clips. I'm going to try to blaze through it as fast as I can, but I think the audience will appreciate what we're going to show tonight.
Okay. Well, I'm going to turn my video off now, and you're going to be doing most of the talking anyway. I may turn it back on here in a little bit, but you said videos you wanted to share. So what are these videos specific that you're going to share with us today?
It's going to be mainly videos to show, actually, to give examples of how the intelligence has been communicating these keys. I say the keys of the universe, literally. And so we have several videos of that. Many of them, or most of them, are my own experiences, which I induced, if you will, using my radio station, as you mentioned earlier. I have also other examples, we'll show in the slides of other things that are very known, like the Nimitz UFO incident, for instance, an example of it. And I do have a couple of educational video, very short, maybe 2-3 minutes, just for the audience to understand certain concept, because we're going to be talking about certain concepts like the golden ratio, for instance, and the Planck length. We're going to be talking about quantum physics a little bit. So a couple of very short educational video, which are all open source. So there's no issue with copyright or anything. So that's what I have. That's the menu I have for tonight. And again, many slides. So if you're ready, I'm gonna blaze through this.
Buckle up, Buttercup. Absolutely. Let's go. I'm looking forward to this.
Excellent. So let me just share my screen and share the sound. Here we go. Okay. Can you see the slides?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Okay. So yeah, and as you mentioned earlier, it's quite remarkable, because since I started working on a human-initiated contact, this led me to this rabbit hole, if you will, and it became very clear that the intelligence has been communicating to us, the secrets of the universe, literally how it works, and it's right in our face. It's been in our face all along, and I think they've clearly been waiting for us to recognize and identify this knowledge, and so we can use it. So the agenda here, the first part of the presentation tonight will be, part one will be to show examples of that. Some, again, as I said, are my own experiences. I do have other videos to show from other folks. To show that the information comes over and over again. Many of the example I'm going to give are known. If we talk about the Rendlesham Forest enigma, for instance, pyramid in Chichen Itza, the Nimitz UFO incident, the Great Pyramid of Giza, and so on. So we're going to go through that. And the part two, this leads really this information, this secret knowledge yields a birth of a new physics, really totally a new physics, which is based on geometric harmonics, because our universe is based on geometry. And so I'm going to be introducing tonight, and this is very fresh material. I presented some of it 3 weeks ago for the first time, so it's very new. And we'll be introducing a new sets of physics equations to show how it works and how this knowledge really that they've been communicating to us, how it translates into our reality. So this is for part one. And just before I start showing some example, I just want to recap a little bit here. And you know, where we left it last time, we had, and I encourage the folks out there to look, to watch our first interview, which we did on September 22nd of 2022, a few months ago, but not that long ago. And, you know, during that presentation, I introduced this formula here, which I call the universal formula for the light encoded reality matrix. And this is the formula that drives, based on my work, that drives the holographic universe we live in. It's a very simple formula. And what it shows here is that the one which is essentially, which represent the entirety of the universe, the holographic universe, which also represents the consciousness field, is driven by harmonic 144 times the golden ratio here that we see, and times harmonic 432. And these harmonics, 144, golden ratio, and 432, these three ingredients really are driving our physical perception. Everything we see around us, the matter that's created, the light, gravity, fractality, everything is driven by these three harmonics. I gave extensive examples and mathematical demonstrations last time of how this connects to things that we know. And so I encourage the folks out there to watch that presentation. I'm not going to repeat, obviously, that. And maybe as a quick analogy, an example here, if we look, for instance, the primary color, you know, which makes up our visible light spectrum, right? We have essentially the blue, the yellow, and the red. And from these three colors, we can recreate the entirety of the visible spectrum in terms of what we can see, in terms of the color we can see, the light. And you know, these three ingredients, or these three primary color, really, you know, creates an illusion of reality, right? If we go watch a movie, for instance, if we go to IMAX or even in 3D, you know, it really gives us a sense that we are either embedded or we see what we see is real, right? And that's what's happening really in our physical reality. What we see, we see it as our reality, but what makes it up really, if we go back to this harmonic, and I color coded them this time to represent them as a three primary color as an analogy, this is the same principle, if you will, right? With these three ingredients, we can recreate the entirety of our holographic universe. So, and why is it important? Well, you know, once we understand how the universe operates, you know, we can from there apply it, you know, to develop technologies, and we can develop healing technologies, for instance, that are based on these harmonics and these ingredients of creation. Literally, we can develop interstellar communication, tap into the free energy of the Earth grid, because the Earth grid is also tuned to these harmonics, as I gave a couple of examples last time, and I have an entire separate presentation about the Earth grid. Even telepathy itself, and I mean, as we again discussed last time, our brain waves, the frequency of our brain waves, and the frequency of the Schumann resonance, the 7.83 hertz, for instance, or in pure harmonic resonance with the reciprocal of harmonic 144. So these are not accidents, right? Everything in nature is tuned to this. And we can develop also anti-gravity and space travel. So this is why this is important. Once we understand that, we can apply it to develop technologies. And I believe that's why the intelligence, these extraterrestrial civilizations have been communicating this information to us all along, and waiting for us to pick it up essentially and put it to good use to free humanity from its current limitations and dependencies. And so on. So the first thing I would like to touch upon briefly, it's the golden ratio, the golden ratio principle. And this is really, really important, because we're going to be talking throughout the presentation about the golden ratio, because as we saw in the previous slides, this is one of the key ingredients, really, that, you know, that the ingredient of creation, literally. So I do have a short video of about 3 minutes. And again, it's important so that the folks out there can understand what this is, and we're going to be talking about it extensively. So let me just get started on it, and then after that, we'll give examples of the manifestations from the intelligence involving these key ingredients. So here we go.
The golden ratio is 3.23?
No, it's 1.618. 1.618.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yep.
All right, so this ratio of 1 to 1.6, and this is the ratio that's called the golden ratio, a 1 to 1.6 ratio. Growing and expanding to the rate of the golden ratio spiral allows the maximum amount of rain to be directed down to the roots of many plants. And remarkably, when you study nature, you see the golden Fibonacci numbers like 3, 5, 8, 13, all of that again and again in the seed pattern spirals of plants, as well as in the number of petals. Next time you're bored and have a sunflower, try counting the number of seeds in the sunflower spiral, the golden ratio. Or maybe try something else with a spiral, like a pine cone or pineapple. So we could spend all day counting the seeds of flowers and plants and fruit. I mean, you get the idea. But we don't just see this golden ratio sequence on a small scale. This ratio is the mathematical sequence in the spirals of our storms, tornadoes, hurricanes. These all spin in this golden sequence, 1 to 1.6. Even the waves can be measured using this ratio. But it doesn't stop there. Modern technology continues to be mystified by the far-reaching scope of the golden ratio, from the alignment of the planets to the spirals of our Milky Way galaxy, as well as the spirals of other ratios in planets. Now let's take this closer to home. I want you to hold out your arm and look at the distance between your shoulder and your elbow, and then from your elbow to your fingertips. Notice how your elbow, from your shoulder to your elbow is 1, and then from your elbow to your fingertips is 1.6. Pretty crazy, huh? But it doesn't stop there. Now take that further. The distance from your fingertips to your wrist is 1, and from your wrist to your elbow is 1.6. Keep it going. From the furthest tip of your finger to the bottom of your fingers is 1, and from the bottom of your fingers to your wrist is 1.6. Now check out the spacing of your knuckles, 1 to 1.6. Are you getting freaked out yet? Think about this. The head to your belly button, 1, and then belly button to your feet, 1.6. From your toes to your knees, and from your knees to your hips, golden ratio. Ever wonder why your 2 front teeth are so much bigger? Golden ratio. The pupils of your eyes, I mean, you name it, your whole body is the symphony of the golden ratio. In fact, as you are listening to this video, the sound waves are passing through your ear in a perfect golden spiral. Scientists have discovered that the golden ratio pattern is necessary for the human brain, the neural system, our sense organs, and our lung system. The golden ratio sequence is even in the helix of our DNA, and it forms the very rhythm of our heartbeat pattern.
Oops, okay, all right, sorry, I was muted. All right, so let's go back to the slides.
Reminds me of some ancient Hermetic teachings and some of the Da Vinci paintings.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, these paintings totally encode the golden ratio for good reasons. So the first example I want to give here is an experience that actually I had myself, which I induced back on April 23rd, 2022, using my radio station. I was actually, what we're going to see here, the video that we're going to see, which lasts a couple of minutes, was actually the fourth manifestation of this, what I call the golden ratio triangular craft. The craft had manifested 3 times already prior to that date. And on that date, actually, I had created a message to request, an additional or manifestation of that triangular craft. And so what we're going to see here is a video of that, actually, that I broadcast this message, this invitation message. And what we're going to see in the video is actually the message itself, because I encode this message in an audio file. right? And that's the audio file that I transmit towards space. In that particular instance, I was targeting the star of Arcturus using a 250,000 watts on 432 megahertz. And so this is what I was doing. And so let me play the video, and we'll see what happened next. All right. Okay, let's go back to the slides.
Have you ever wondered if that could be a TR3B?
Well, I don't think the TL3B has this golden ratio proportion shape, which you're going to see in a second. I think it's pretty equilateral, if I recall well.
Great point. Yeah.
So and we'll see. So let me flip a bit briefly to the slide. So we see here the four manifestations of that craft. It started actually. My first one was on December 5th, 2021. We see here on the left side of the antenna, it just popped in and out in a very different orientation. This was more vertical, if you will. The second manifestation happened on December 25th, 2021. It was Christmas, actually. And then February 5th, 2022. And then what we just saw here was this example here. And this leads to this. And and the first actually would notice a golden ratio proportion was our good friend David Cerita at the time. When we had the first manifestation on December 5th, David noticed there was something going on with the golden ratio here based on what he looked at. And so I started looking deeper into it, and I had more manifestations after the original ones. And I discovered that actually there's not only one golden ratio, but this triangle is very unique. It's a very unique triangle in the universe, literally. Because if we take any side of this triangle, let's say we take this, this long side at the bottom, the C side, and we ratio that over the B side, we get the golden ratio. At a very good, very good accuracy, actually 99.2% accuracy. If we take this side B here and we ratio that over side A here, we get the golden ratio again at a very high accuracy again. And if we take the long side of this triangle and we ratio that over the smallest, we get the golden ratio squared at 99.1% match. So this is remarkable, because any proportion, any relationship we do in terms of ratio of any side of this triangle always renders or yields a golden ratio, which is remarkable in itself. Now, there's more to that, and what I found out is that even the angle of this triangle have something very unique. And if we look at the left side here, the angle A to the left, and I found a good software to do triangle modeling. So I was able to fine tune it. I was trying to understand what they were trying to communicate. Clearly, the intelligence was communicating the golden ratio. I mean, no doubt about it. But I felt that there was more to this. There was more than just a golden ratio. And what I found, if we look at the angle here, that this angle is actually matching the harmonic 432, because the angle is 4.32 degrees, which is amazing. On the right side of this triangle, the angle is 6.94 degrees, which is equivalent to the reciprocal of harmonic 144. And let me just show you here. If we take harmonic 144, you see on a calculator, and we do 1 over x, the reciprocal, we get this angle, 6.94. This is the angle of this side here. And finally, this upper angle here was also connected to this harmonic 432 and golden ratio, because if you add up all the angles of a triangle, always adds up to 180 degrees. So if we subtract this angle from 180 degrees and we ratio over the golden ratio, we get harmonic 432 again. I mean, to the dot. So this is remarkable, and we see the accuracy, all the relationship in the table here in terms of golden ratio proportion, and in terms of these harmonics of creation, which are communicated through this sighting. Now, interestingly, we need to ask ourselves, is this unique shape itself part of the advanced technology? Is the triangle with this proportion allows it to travel interdimensionally instantly from one point of the hologram of the universe to the other, because it is in perfect harmonic resonance with these numbers, with the golden ratio and this harmonic 144 and 432. So this was quite an amazing experience and finding that really amazed me. The next example I have is really, really remarkable, and it's probably one of the most impressive sighting or video of the intelligence that I've seen. It came from a good friend of mine, Linda Rorara, and she will be a great guest, Rex, to have on your show. She has a very powerful connection with our cosmic family, and she made a request actually for a very specific sighting. She asked for a V-shaped formation. And the night, and she has the same night vision camera that I have here. I have the same Luna Optics night vision camera, and so the night that evening, she went in the backyard. She felt compelled to do that, and she was instructed to point the camera in a very specific direction, and at a certain specific time, she started recording. She was kind of influenced or directed to do that, and so what we're going to see here is the video we're going to see here is the experience that she had. And she's been very generous to share that and wanting and allow me to share this video. This experience, I want to be clear that these experiences are very personal. These are very personal experience, and they're not just there to be consumed like anything else. This is a very powerful, very, very personal experience. So I'm very grateful that she allows to show this video, because this ties into what we're going to be talking this evening, which is tied to this. Let me just play the video here, and we'll pick it up from there. The video is going to play 2 times in a row because it's pretty short. It's about 30 seconds, the experience. So we're going to play it twice in a row. So, and look, pay attention, close attention to the shapes of the objects. These objects are producing very specific shapes in the sky. And so let me play it here. And again, it starts at the moment that she was instructed to play record. So here we go. Oops, hold on a second. Let me just restart it here. Here we go. All right, so let's go back to the slide.
And what camera was she using for that?
A Luna Optics night vision camera. I have exactly the same camera here. And so I can tell you for a fact that this footage is authentic because I know exactly how how they record and how it looks like. So this is an amazing footage, obviously.
Where is this at?
She's from the Netherlands in Europe.
Wow. This is one of the best UFO videos I've ever seen.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And I think the Tic Tac is is nothing compared to this if you look at this video. And again, she had made requests for a V shape and a triangle. And so it's remarkable that they just, went along and honored her request, but there's more to this. And that we're going to see here. There's very, very important information encoded in this video. So let me go to the next slide. So the first thing I did here was to take a screenshot because what happened actually, and this is very recent, Rex. This happens a few weeks ago. I'm aware of this video. I've been in touch with her for many years, and I had seen this video a long time ago, back in 2018, actually. But she asked me recently to look at the video because she saw some of my interviews and everything. And she asked, hey, Jimmy, can you look to see if there's information in this? Can you see anything encoded in this video? So the first thing I did was to take a screenshot of this V-shaped formation here of these 5 objects and see if there was anything we could, find. And so what we see here is actually you see the V-shape is here on the upper left side. So I zoomed in and use an online protractor or a tool I have on my iPad. And fortunately, if you look at the 3 objects at the bottom, they are very horizontal. So I was able to draw a very nice baseline, very horizontal baseline. And the 2 objects on the upper right side are not perfectly aligned. So I went right in between to have the best average possible. And when we do that, amazingly, the angle that we see, the angle of this V shape is exactly 144 degrees, as we see here.
That's remarkable. This is seriously one of the best videos I've seen of a UFO. And then the way that you measure it out, that's great.
Yeah, and this is remarkable because it gives us again, it tells us again, nothing that the intelligence does just happens by accident. There's information encoded in this. Clearly, this 144 degrees, as we see ourselves, is part of these ingredients, the keys of the universe. The next thing I did, I looked at another formation here that was pretty stable. And we see here a screenshot. So I zoomed in. And we see it here on the left side. I zoomed that in and I flipped it back up a little bit because it felt like this side was pointing down. So I flipped it back up. And what we see here amazingly is clearly a tetrahedron with an inscribed sphere inside. So these 5 objects have the shape of a tetrahedron with an inscribed sphere. There's no doubt about it. And amazingly, this happens to be, Rex, what I've been working on for the last few months now. I've been working, if you look on the upper right side here of the slide, I've been working on harmonic simulations, geometric harmonic simulations using platonic solids, and most specifically, the tetrahedron with an inscribed sphere. This tetrahedron, if we look at the bottom right side, what is it telling us? Well, the sum of the angles in the tetrahedron all add up to 720 degrees. And there are 60 minutes of arc per degree. And so we end up with a harmonic equivalent of 43,200. And with harmonic mathematics, we can slide the decimal left or right. We can essentially ignore the zeros. So this harmonics, this tetrahedron represents harmonic 432.
Shape shifting.
Yeah. Now, how we see this, just to go a bit deeper on that line of thought here, if we look on the left side, right, we know that the 2D flower of life, or the flower of life that everybody knows, is a 2-dimensional representation of something that's a 3-dimensional representation. And what we see here is that what makes up actually, what creates this flower of life, the 2D, is actually the 64 tetrahedron grid, the 3-dimensional 64 tetrahedron grid, which are made obviously of 64 tetrahedrons. And Nassim Haramein has done a fantastic work on this actually, so I certainly recommend to look at his work. But from this, we can recreate everything, all shapes, all geometry in our universe. And what we see is that this tetrahedron actually contained in this siding manifests that. And on the right side, what we see a bit further here is that, just to give an example of the harmonic simulations that I've been working on, we're going to talk about that a little bit further here. But if we take, for instance, the number 1 that represents the entirety of our holographic universe, right? The oneness, the consciousness field, everything in the universe is represented by number 1. And if we fractalize, if we create a division in this oneness, we fractalize it through the golden ratio principle that we saw earlier in the video. And we use this number, essentially this 0.618, which is again, the reciprocal of the golden ratio, as being the total volume of energy of this tetrahedron, this light energy, if you will, this tetrahedron that pumps this light in and out in our reality. If we fractalize it with this volume, we end up with an inscribed sphere inside, in terms of a harmonic, that will have a volume of energy equivalent to 432 squared. This is mathematically, and I've done all the math on this. I'm not going to go through that in detail, of course, here, but that's what the math tells us. It's mathematical. And 432 squared, as we know, is also the speed of light in miles per second, at very high accuracy. And the residual volume outside this inscribed sphere, based on this strategy that I explained, will also be equal to 432. So everything about this tetrahedron, essentially, when we fractalize, we create a division in the universe. We take the universe and we create a division, we fractalize it. These are the harmonics that emerges from that in our reality. And if we ask ourselves, why is this harmonic for 432 so important? Why is this number coming from? Where is it coming from? Based on my work and based on what I believe, based on all the evidence, it comes from that very principle. It comes from this 64 tetrahedron grid, which creates a reality. And these harmonics are essentially the one that makes up this entire reality, and that's being translated through this siding for harmonic 432. Now, the third thing I want to show here, I felt when I looked at this video we saw earlier, clearly there was something more to this, because we see the V shape, like is kind of stable and then contracts and then elongates back again. So again, they don't do anything for the intelligent, doesn't do anything randomly. So I felt there was something to it. So I took a screenshot of the formation when it's contracted versus when it's stretched, and did some measurements on it. And what we see here, essentially, when we measure, we take a measurement of these two different formations, and we ratio them. We compare the length. Amazingly, the ratio is exactly the golden ratio squared. 2.618 is the golden ratio squared. And we see the output of the software here, which gives the width. I'm not making this up, 2.61 inch, relatively speaking. And the one on the left side is the relative width is 1 inch. And so it's exactly the golden ratio squared that's being revealed for this sighting. So what we end up with, and we all saw through this video earlier, the things that are being manifested for this video is harmonic 144 through the angle of this V-shaped formation, as we demonstrated. The golden ratio is being revealed through the V-shape going in a stretched versus contracted configuration. And the tetrahedron with inscribed the sphere that we saw also renders the harmonic 432. And these happens to be exactly the ingredients that I introduced in the universal formula last time we talked, Rex, and that I talked about earlier again, this equation, this formula, which represents the holographic universe we live in.
432, you know, I mean, it's fascinating when you think about how it all just breaks down to frequencies and numbers. And it, you know, let me ask you, do you think that we're in a matrix of sorts and that allows these beings to kind of come out and present themselves, or these ships to come out in the ways that they do? Are they craft, or are they holograms, or, you know, the matrix itself rewriting itself?
Well, it's a great question, and I think it can be answered in different ways, because I think depending on the intelligence itself, right? It's not the one thing. It's there's a plurality of intelligences in this universe, this holographic universe. They have different ways to manifest themselves. Some may use craft, you know, that are a bit more, I'll say physical, but I don't like that word. It appears to us a bit more physical. Others are more etheric, right? And they may interact with us more in a dream state, or more in an etheric or energy form, if you will. But at the end of the day, and that's what we're going to see a bit further, you know, these harmonics, as I said here, these harmonics of light, you know, everything, just like when we watch a movie on a TV, you know, the light that we see that gives this illusion of reality. It's the same thing, right? These harmonics of light, 144 and 432, which are fractalized for the golden ratio principle, are just waveforms. We are in this matrix of waveforms, and you know, we have a sense of reality of things that we can touch, that are hard and solid, right? The material world, but these are just illusion in a sense. And quantum physics shows us that. All the paradoxes, for instance, shows that all what we think or perceive as reality and time and all that are illusion in many ways. And so that's, I think they have many different ways to, you know, interact with us depending on technology and depending on civilization. Now, the thing also that we've talked last time, I'm not going to redo the analysis entirely here, but I just want to touch base because it's totally relevant to what we're talking about here. So I did my own analysis of the Great Pyramid of Giza. I started from scratch. I had not done this before. I knew there was many things encoded in the Great Pyramid, but I was, you know, interested to look at it with that perspective, because it's all a matter of perspective. And when we do the analysis of the Great Pyramid of Giza and we find the dimensions, and anyone can go online and find these dimensions that are shown here on the upper left side of the screen, you're expressed in meter in this case, we realize that these dimensions, they all have a relationship with these key harmonics and these ingredients of creation, 144, golden ratio, and 432. And if we look at the hypotenuse, for instance, which is equivalent to 186.6 meter, exactly, well, this happens to be equivalent to harmonic 432 squared. And I'm going to do it on the screen here, just so you folks out there can see what I'm talking about. So if you take 43.2, which is equivalent to harmonic 432, again, we can slide the decimal left or right in harmonic mathematics. 43.2 that's shown here, and we multiply it by 4.32, which is again the same harmonic, we get 186.6. You see exactly, this is exactly the hypotenuse of the Great Pyramid here. 100% match. And if you recall this, what I showed earlier in the harmonic simulation here, you see this 432 squared happened to be the volume of the energy volume of the inscribed sphere also, which you know, result is 186.624. So it's all connected to this. And similarly, I mean, if we look at the angle again, it's 51.84. This is equivalent to harmonic 432 times the square root of harmonic 144. 100% match. And I could do it on the calculator here. I'm just going to do it one last one here just to give an example. Show that I'm not making this up. We'll get 43.2, and we multiply by this harmonic 1.4, harmonic 144 square root, and we get the angle of the Great Pyramid of Giza to the dot, 51.84 degrees. So everything about the pyramid is about these harmonics. If we ratio any side, if we ratio, for instance, the hypotenuse of the Great Pyramid divided by the half, the base, we get the golden ratio, a 99.98% match. If we divide the height of the Great Pyramid by the half base, we get the square root of the golden ratio, and the base by the height, we get the golden ratio again, 97.2%, and so on. And so it's remarkable that everything that's essentially everything about a pyramid is related to these key ingredients as well. On the bottom right side here, just to say a word, I mean, for those who have studied this a little bit, it's alleged that the Great Pyramid of Giza was once upon a time covered with casing stones, you know, perfectly polished limestones, and there were 144,000 of them. That's what's essentially in the books. And so again, this is representing this harmonic 144 again.
That is so cool.
Even the location of the Great Pyramid of Giza is fascinating, because even the location encodes these harmonics. You know, the Great Pyramid, this is the coordinates here that we see, right? The latitude of the Great Pyramid is remarkable because the latitude in degrees 2997 is equivalent to the speed of light in the metric system. The longitude here, and this is known, I mean, the 29.97, I mean, this is known that matches, you know, the speed of light. The longitude, I did study on it, and I found that when I was calculating in terms of harmonic distance, what that longitude represents, right? So the longitude is in degrees, but there are 60 minutes of arcs per degree. When we make that calculation, it adds up to 1,868 nautical miles. And we use a nautical mile system here because we're talking about geometric harmonics, right? We need to use units that are compatible, that are in harmonic resonance with geometry. And so the nautical miles is the unit we use in terms of distance measurements here. And it's remarkable because 1868 is equivalent essentially to this harmonic 432 square, 1866. I mean, we're talking about a fraction of a percent difference. I mean, this matched the speed of light again in miles per second, matched the inscribed sphere volume of that tetrahedron we talked about earlier, which was revealed and rendered through the amazing sightings we saw earlier. So the Great Pyramid is exactly at that distance, which is essentially this harmonic 432 squared from the prime meridian, right? If we look again, we're looking at the distance between the coordinates of origin, the latitude 0, longitude 0. And so the distance in the longitude is exactly that harmonic. Amazingly also, this happens to be, for those who followed the Rendlesham UFO enigma, right? This craft that landed in the Rendlesham forest. Well, the distance between the Great Pyramid of Giza and the craft landing site, when we look at the exact coordinate, it is exactly 1,864 nautical miles as well, which match this harmonic 432 squared again. This is, you know, the very high degree of accuracy, well above 99.9% accuracy, which is remarkable. And the other thing I found, which was fascinating, is that when we go up at the latitude of the Great Pyramid, where it is actually built, right? Because the Earth is curved, right? And so it shrinks, if you will, the distance compared to the latitude 0. When we are at the latitude of the Great Pyramid, where it's actually built, and we calculate that distance again between the Great Pyramid and the prime meridian, we get 1,613 nautical miles, which is exactly matching at very high degree accuracy the golden ratio, 1618, 1.618. So the location of the Great Pyramid itself encodes these harmonics. It's just, you know, it's just stunning. It's just undeniable at this point. Okay, next, just like we did with the golden ratio, I have a short video of this one is a couple of minutes, because we're going to be talking about quantum physics, and we'll see how quantum physics is tied to all this as well. You know, not only the intelligence of these civilizations have been communicating the keys of the universe to us right in our face, but these keys also encodes quantum physics. So if I can show this video, it's a couple of minutes. Give me 1 second, and then we'll pick it up from there after the video.
Scientists have already discovered the pixel-sized building block of our universe, which is known as the Planck length. The smallest possible size for anything in our universe. It is at this point whereby the rules of gravity and space-time are no longer applicable. In our matrix simulation, this Planck length can be considered as one single pixel, as it is the tiniest amount which can be quantified. In the 1890s, Max Planck, the renowned physicist, suggested a set of units to streamline the representation of physics laws by applying the 5 constants in nature, such as the speed of light, the gravitational constant, and Planck constant. Quarks and leptons are the building blocks of matter and incredibly tiny, less than a billionth of a meter in diameter. If zooming further, a billion times more, beyond zeptometers and yoctometers, 100 million times smaller still, and eventually reaching the end will be the Planck length. Nothing beyond this point will be visible, as everything is energy, and nothing is physical. The scale of a Planck length, which is represented by 1.6 by 10 to the power of 35 meters, is the smallest thing that can be measured in our world, and for comparison purposes it is 100 million trillion times smaller than a proton. The Planck scale was devised as a set of universal units but also represent the boundaries of the known laws of physics. Any space smaller than the Planck length does not work, as the physics completely break down. At the Planck scale, physicists theorize the 4 fundamental forces: gravity, the weak force, electromagnetism, and the strong force unite into a single force of energy. Thank you for watching, and do not forget to like and subscribe.
All right, so let me get back to the slides.
Whole new meaning to walk the plank.
Okay, so. All right, so let's get back to the slide here. Another thing I wanted to show here is, if we look, for instance, we're talking about Egypt, right? And we'll see how quantum physics has been encoded, not only in sightings, but it's clearly encoded in these ancient sacred sites. And the pyramid, more specifically, contains this information. If we take, for instance, the Royal Egyptian cubit, right? The long Royal Egyptian cubit that we see here, which is the unit, the measurement system that was used supposedly to build the pyramid. It's based on the cubit. Well, it happens to be when we use geometric harmonics and we convert the length of this Royal Egyptian cubit in terms of nautical miles. Again, we use the nautical miles because this is what's compatible with geometric harmonics. The length of the cubit is actually equivalent exactly to the Planck length that we saw earlier, times 2 golden ratio proportion at 99.9% accuracy. So this means that the pyramid builders themselves had to know about the Planck length, because the odds that this just happens to be an accident or slim to none with that degree of accuracy is just remarkable. It's remarkable. And we see also itself that the Planck length itself, and we'll see it in the next slide, has a representation in terms of this harmonic 144, 432 and golden ratio at 99.9% accuracy. May go to the next slide. So we see here the Planck length itself, as described in the short video we saw earlier, is exactly equivalent to harmonic 144 times golden ratio squared over 432 at 99.997% match of accuracy. So again, even the Planck length itself is based on this harmonics of light and fractalized through the golden ratio. And it's all over the Great Pyramid. You see at the bottom, these numbers, harmonics, are all over the place. So clearly the builders of the pyramid had to know that and essentially use, as it's stated here, the Royal Egyptian cubit is literally a fractal of the Planck scale, of the quantum scale, that they've essentially fractalized, and they've, that we see in terms of our macro scale, at the human scale, but it's in perfect harmonic resonance with the Planck length. There are some slides like this. I'm not going to go through that in detail, but it's more, I'm going to zap through it very quickly, just to flash them on a screen for a few seconds for those who are interested in the math and how I got to these numbers. The details are there, so the folks out there can just take a screenshot of it and redo the math if they want, but you will see, you will get exactly at the number that we're talking about here. Same thing here, I'm just zapping quickly through this one, which is the mathematical explanation or demonstration of what we just talked about. And the match is just remarkable. Okay, let's talk about Chichen Itza. Is another example here that I'd like to present. So let me show a short video again. All right, so let me just move this a little bit. Here we go.
It's kind of a big secret. We know that NASA was down at Chichen Itza like 10 years ago and basically put a covered wall around the El Castillo, the main pyramid, so that they could do testing. And they were there for like almost a month testing the frequencies apparently that are emitted from the pyramid there. That tells you something. Why it's not more widely known probably is because they found some exotic energy, they found some exotic discharge from the pyramid, and they haven't figured it out yet. There's a whole science and technology that is missing. Robert Barreros, in his book 2012, talks about the height of the Mayan culture, and that at one point over 50,000 pyramids were active. They were pushing energy into the atmosphere.
All right, so and just go back to the slides. Okay. So what's special about Chichen Itza? I had shown a slide in our last presentation about Chichen Itza, and I have it in the next slide, but I redid some additional calculations. And amazingly, when we look at, you know, the location where actually this pyramid is built, it's in Chichen Itza, and we look at the harmonic distance, the geometric harmonic distance between the pyramid of Chichen Itza and the Great Pyramid of Giza, using the Great Circle distance, we get exactly 1,681 nautical miles. Okay, so that's a distance on the Earth grid, if you will. Well, if we look at 1,681, which is represented here in the middle, this happens to match exactly the reciprocal of the golden ratio, which is 0.6180, a 99.99% match. And this number also is very close to the product of harmonic 144 and 432, and which I can just show here on the screen just to show that I'm not making this up. So we take harmonic 144 and we multiply by the harmonic 432. We get 0.62208, which is close to this number at 99.4%. And so, you know, very clearly the location of the Chichen Itza and why NASA has been conducting secret experiments there makes total sense to me, because it's, you know, if we look at the Earth grid, and I have an entire presentation about the Earth grid, but the Earth grid itself is based on these harmonics. You know, the lattice of the Earth grid are based on this harmonic 144 golden ratio and 432. And that's why this pyramid is built at that location, because that, you know, and it's very known, I mean, for those who've studied this, that, you know, there's a sun portal. There's a portal opening there, the Chichen Itza, specifically at the spring equinox. And we see here on the picture, you know, when the spring equinox happened at a very specific time, at that exact moment, there are portals opening, and it's built, and there's a resonance between the sun portal and the Earth grid itself and planet Earth. And why is that? Why that is, and that's the other thing, I did some calculations. And when we look at the geometric harmonic distance of the sun, so the sun distance to the Earth at that moment, at the spring equinox, is exactly 149 million miles, or sorry, 149.6 million kilometers of distance to the sun of the Earth at that equinox moment. again, we convert that into geometric harmonics using the nautical mile system, and we end up with 80.78 million nautical miles. What it just happens to be that this distance matched exactly 50 golden ratio distance at 99.85% match. So essentially, why is there a portal of energy or portals opening up at that moment is that the sun and the earth grid are in perfect harmonic resonance. They are 50 golden ratio distance, harmonic distance. And that's why this phenomenon is happening. And I think that's why NASA has been conducting experiments there, because this location on the earth grid opens up portals, opens up possibilities of extracting probably energy of free energy of the earth grid. Right, just like we have at Sedona here, not too far from where I'm located.
Nice. Now, I've wondered also if those energies, when it happens, like when there is an equinox or there's a certain alignment, if the ancients knew how to download information and powers, even possibly at certain times.
Well, it's an excellent point. If you look at it. And again, I have a ton of slides on this. I'm not going to go for this tonight. We don't have time. But the Earth grid itself is based on these harmonics. Okay, and if you look, where the ancient sacred sites are built, like just take the Great Pyramid of Giza is probably the best example. There are many other sites, as we know, around the world, pyramids all over the world, and different megalithic constructions. They are so huge. I mean, the stones are so huge that some of them we could not even lift them today with the technology that we have. But they happen to be built on this earth grid lattice, this vortex of energy, which I think was there. They built it on these locations to show us that, at these locations, we can harness free energy and create anti-gravity. And that's how they were able to manipulate and move these giant stones, because of the locations where they were built. It's right in our face, it's right there. And when we calculate these harmonic distance, they all always add up to or end up being 144, 432 golden ratio proportions. And I think that's the answer to your question. And I think clearly they were, in addition to being able to extract energy at these moments, also, again, this frequency, these harmonics are connected to our brain frequencies, right? The Schumann resonance itself at 7.83 hertz, when we convert that frequency into a geometric harmonic frequencies, is exactly matching the reciprocal of harmonic 144. Similarly, with the Schumann resonance, which is 7.83 hertz, I talk about, but the brainwave also in that same range, the alpha brainwave between 7 and 8 hertz. It's all connected because all in harmonic resonance with that. So there's not only the physical things that can take place here and, harnessing energy, doing anti-gravity, but there's something about consciousness, right? I think that these harmonics clearly have a connection to the oneness, if you will, of this holographic universe. We talk about the universal formula at the beginning, this number one, which is the consciousness field. And so there's possibilities at these moments when we have this alignment, for instance, at Chichen Itza, to have experiences. And it's very known that people, have all kind of mystical experience at these sites, at these locations. And most prominently, that happened at a very specific time when the sun, for instance, is in harmonic resonance, or there are sort of other portals, from outer space that opens up at these moments. Here's another example here, the Nimitz UFO incident that everybody knows about, that we've seen, the video of on the screen and everything. This incident happened on the coast of Catalina Island. And I have a little representation here. Now, if we do a calculation, again, we look at the geometric harmonic distance between the east coast of Catalina Island and the Great Pyramid of Giza, we end up with 6,625 nautical miles. Again, this is a geometric harmonic distance. This number is not an accident. And if we look here, this number happens to be, or to match exactly a whole number equivalent 46 times harmonic 144. I'm going to do it on the screen to show you that I'm not making this up. So we take the whole number without decimals, and we multiply by harmonic 144. We get 6,624. And the distance between this Nimitz UFO incident and the Great Pyramid is 6,625. So we have a 99.99% match. So which tells us that these sightings, don't happen there by accident. They happen there because it happened there because there was a message behind this. But not only that, it could be also that the UFO or the technology that manifested the Nimitz, because this clearly at the whole number of harmonic 144 happens to be a portal or a vortex of energy located there. And these intelligence may be traveling, through these portals and using this energy from the universe, if you will. And that's why they are showing up at these specific locations. And we saw that earlier with the Rendlesham forest, right? The distance or geometric harmonic distance between the Rendlesham UFO landing, where the craft landed in the Rendlesham forest and the Great Pyramid, was also in a harmonic resonance, was 432 squared. And so this is the same story that comes back again, that these craft or these UFOs don't just show up there by accident. They seem to be connected to the Earth grid, connected to the harmonics that essentially are driving the holographic universe. And that may be the mechanism how they travel.
Portals and wormholes.
Yep. The Earth grid, I just have one slide here, and this is what, I have an entire presentation about this, but I give example of many ancient sacred sites around the world. When we calculate their harmonic distance, to the point of reference, either the Great Pyramid or the North Pole, we realize that the Earth grid lattice are based on harmonic 144 times golden ratio, which is in nautical miles is equivalent to 233 nautical miles, but in terms of kilometers in the metric systems, when we convert that, it matches 432 kilometers, which is not an accident, obviously. This is how the Earth grid is divided, essentially. And I think that's why these manifestations of UFO happens at these very specific locations, because that's how they can harness or use the energy of the universe and the Earth grid to travel. Okay, next one is an experience that I had with my antenna system. I made a transmission not long ago. This happened to be actually on October 19th, 2022. This is about a month after we had our first discussion, Rex. So I have the video here, and I'm going to show it. And I was broadcasting towards Saturn that night using my equipment here. Again, I'm able, my radio station is capable of deploying about 250,000 watts on 432 megahertz and about 150,000 watts on 144 megahertz. I have two bands that I can use, or two set of frequencies, and these are the antennas that allows me to broadcast at high power. And just to remind the folks out there, at that power, the radio waves will physically reach the target, anywhere in the solar system. If I target Saturn, if I broadcast towards Saturn, the radio wave will physically reach the planet Saturn. And so it's like delivering a message essentially on the doorstep of these intelligence, because the message will just reach these locations. Okay, so let me play the video here.
That's remarkable. I mean, just really, for those that are listening to this, think about that for a minute. You can send a message to Saturn. What's the message you're going to send if you could do that?
Well, I do have many different messages encoded, but I have to say that lately I have been broadcasting some of the slides that we're showing here. I'm gonna, the slides about the new physics formula or the formula of the holographic universe, or even the slides of showing the golden ratio triangular craft, which was decoded. When I look at all the angles and all calculations, I re-encode these slides and I broadcast it back to the universe, in all kind of directions. And it's my way to let them know that, hey, we figured this one out, send the next batch of information, right? And so that's, that's one thing that I've been broadcasting, but also messages, invitation messages for contact, or, very peaceful messages and things like that for help, asking help for humanity and things like that. So this is a lot of the nature of the message I've been broadcasting lately. So what we're going to see here in this video, as I was broadcasting towards Saturn, this object here manifested. And I invite you to pay attention. There are four, we're going to see this object flashing in and out for dimension on 4 different occasions. This craft, and some may say, oh, it's a satellite, but I'm just going to see, first of all, it's not going linearly, it's going non-linearly. right? And satellite don't go non-linearly, they go straight line. And also the first two manifestations are stationary. So the craft was stationary, literally didn't move at all, pretty much. There was about a minute or 52 seconds interval between the first manifestation and the second, and the object is at the same exact location. So stationary, so it cannot be a satellite. And we're going to see then the third manifestation, and the fourth, the object started moving quite a bit, going non-linearly, and became brighter. So the first two manifestations are pretty light, but you're going to see the object became brighter. And then we'll see the information that's contained, in this manifestation. So let me play the video here. So live transmission taking place now. Stationary, doesn't move, same location. I mean, 79 seconds later, now it moved quite a bit, became brighter. And then even brighter, 2 minutes later. And we see here a zoomed in version, or a slowed down, zoomed in of the last manifestation. All right, and this happens during the transmission. So let's go back to the slide and we'll do the analysis of the sighting. Okay. So, I could not see from the trajectory. It was nonlinear, but I didn't figure out if there was a geometrical shape or something encoded there. But I decided to look at the time between each of these manifestations. So we see here the first manifestation occurred at that time, 6:47:46. I have the timestamp from the camera here. And again, I just want to emphasize also here, I have actually 3 different cameras that are filming, but I was recording with 2 separate technologies, 2 separate camera system, right? And I can confirm that these sightings occurred on both cameras. So it's not an artifact from the camera or anything like that, obviously, because both cameras, which are different technology, picked up the same thing. So sighting number 1, if we look here, sighting number 2, about 52 seconds later, we see that the object didn't move much. You see between number 1 and number 2, pretty stationary. On the third manifestation, about a minute and 21 seconds later, the object started moving quite a bit. Excuse me, it became much brighter. And then on the fourth one, about a couple of minutes later, was very bright. And this was the last manifestation. So these are the 4 timestamps that we have here. And so I started to look at the time or the timing between each of these sightings. So between sighting 1 and 2, there's 52 seconds. Between sighting 2 and 3, there's 71 seconds. And between 3 and 4, there's 114 seconds. And the overall experience lasted 237 seconds. So I decided to do some ratio and see if there was anything that was encoded in there. Now I started with, ratioing essentially the 71 seconds over the 114 seconds. And what we see here, amazingly, this ratio equals 0.6228. I'm going to do it on the screen here, show you that I'm not making this up. So we take 71 seconds, ratio that divided by 114, we get 0.6228. This is the ratio. But if you recall, the reciprocal of the golden ratio is 0.6180 at 99.2% match. And the product of harmonic 144 and 432 is also equivalent to that at a high degree of accuracy. Let me do it here. Do 1.44 multiply by harmonic 432, we get 0.62208. Compare that to 0.6228 of that ratio at 99.9% match. So it is remarkable, because to have that kind of accuracy, if you just have even 1 second off, you don't get that accuracy. You get down to the 97% or whatever. To have that kind of accuracy, that needs to be to the dot, to that second. And if you recall also when we talked about Chichen Itza earlier, right, the distance between, let me go back to that slide because I think it's relevant here, right? The distance between the Chichen Itza, which was studied by NASA, and the Great Pyramid is this ratio again, 618, right? 0.618, which is the reciprocal of the golden ratio. This is the same stuff here we see here in that slide. See? Now, the other thing I looked at was ratioing now the 71 second over the 52. And I found that when we do this ratio, when we square it, we get 1.864, which matches again, amazingly, this harmonic 432 squared at 99.9% match. Again, this number is the speed of light in miles per second at 99.8% match. And if you recall, the distance between the Rendlesham Forest UFO landing site and the Great Pyramid was 1864. I mean, exactly that number. And I'm going to go quickly to the slide here because it's just right there. If you recall here, you see the distance between the Rendlesham UFO landing site and the Great Pyramid was exactly 1864 nautical miles. And this is what we see essentially rendered through that ratio here. And finally, and by the way, also, we talked about the Planck length earlier, right? And now we're going to talk about quantum physics also. If we take the Planck length, right, we heard in the video, the Planck length is the smallest oscillation of energy that can exist at the quantum level. Okay, this is the pixel, if you will, of quantum physics. The pixel size, the smallest size that can exist. If we take this Planck length as being the diameter of a sphere, right? And we create a sphere and we calculate the volume of energy, the volume of that sphere. I'll call it the Planck sphere, right? That will represent the smallest sphere of energy that can exist essentially at the quantum level, right? And if we take this ratio that we just saw, 18.64, I'm going to do it on the screen here, and we square it, we get the volume of the Planck sphere at 99.8% match, which is essentially, we're talking about quantum physics here. Well, this one we talked about earlier. This was the distance between, again, the Rendlesham Forest landing site and the Great Pyramid, which matched this ratio again. And finally, the last one that I did was ratioing the total time of that experience over this between the sighting 3 and 4. And that ratio happens to match harmonic 144 squared at 99.7% accuracy. This means that, I mean, to have that kind of accuracy, you know, it's just going to be an accident. I mean, if you have, again, as I said, once, I mean, what are the odds that you have this perfect combination of timing between these different manifestations that renders or yields these ratios and these harmonics to that level of accuracy? Statistically speaking, is just, you know, impossible, really, infinitely small. And we see that these ratios that were revealed for this sighting are the same one that are essentially rendered through this quantum simulation that I talked about earlier, right? When we fractalize the holographic universe through the golden ratio principle, the volume of energy we get into the tetrahedrons are related to these harmonics as well. And finally, I do have a last one here that I want to show, a last manifestation before we're going to talk about what it involves in terms of new physics, the birth of a new physics based on that. I call it the Orion belt transmission. It's very short. This one is less than a minute, maybe 30 seconds. So let me just play the video. Are you still there, Rex? Just want to make sure I didn't lose you.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So what we're going to see here, I'm showing some screenshots. So let me describe what we're going to see on the screen here. So this transmission happened very recently also. This is in November, actually, November, I don't remember exactly the date. I have it on my file, but it's November of 2022, so it's like a couple of months old. I mean, it's that recent. So I was making a broadcast towards the Orion belt, as we're going to see. Actually, I was broadcasting Rex, this tetrahedron shape and these harmonics I talked about earlier. And what we're going to see here, if we look on a screenshot on the left side, at a specific moment, there's two objects that just pops on the screen, manifests, but they happen exactly on the same frame. And I have a good video editing software here, and I'm able to confirm that these two objects appeared exactly on the same frame. Okay. And after they appeared, then the object number one essentially vanishes. And what we're going to see is that object number two, which is huge, travels towards object number one at a certain distance. And at a certain distance, this object just in an instant vanishes. And as you will see here, I did the screenshot and did the analysis of these relative distance. And one more time here, when I ratio this distance together, we get the golden ratio again at 99.91% match. This is what we're going to see in the video. So let me play the video. The first part will be fast. I'm telling you, it goes really fast. And then I play it again, slowed down and zoomed in. So you're going to have a better appreciation of what I just described. So here it is. Whoops, hold on a second. Here we go. That's pretty fast. So slowed down and zoomed in. So they appear on the same frame, as you're going to see. And this is the video, which again, as I just described, let me go back to the slide here. It's telling us clearly the golden ratio proportion here. I mean, what are the odds again? I mean, you know, one could say, well, this is just a meteor or something, right? First of all, what are the odds that you have two objects appearing on the exact same frame? And then this object travels exactly towards object number one in that direction. I mean, there are 360 degrees in a circle, right? Could have traveled in any other direction, and we wouldn't have had this relationship. It had to travel towards object number one. So we travel exactly in the right direction. And at the exact moment, the golden ratio proportion, it just vanishes. And this object was monster in terms of size. I had to have a zoomed out field of view here. You see the Orion belt here is the location where I was broadcasting towards. See Sirius, which is the brightest star in the sky, is there. And look how big this thing was. Huge. And, you know, if it will be some kind of meteor, I mean, we know of that size especially, it leaves us a trail of debris behind, right? It decomposes, right? It doesn't vanish that way. This one just vanishes all of a sudden. So it's quite remarkable. And finally, this is the last example, actually. And I'm not going to spend much time on it, but
Amazing,
for those,
man.
yeah, I mean, clearly, I mean, from my own experience, as I said, and not only my own experience, I've shown at the beginning of this presentation a video from Linda, which was very spectacular, if you recall, with these 5 objects creating different shapes and geometrical shapes. So this is not my stuff, that's somebody else, another experiencer, right? I have my own videos that I showed, and also other things like Ancient Sacred Site, which encodes the same information. So it comes from different sources. The Nimitz is another example. You know, not my stuff, but encodes the same information. And now we see the Rendlesham Enigma encodes the same information as well, right? For those who were following this or did not follow it, this UFO landed in the 80s, 1980, if I recall. And Jim Peniston is the gentleman who was in the army, was at the time, went to the site and touched the craft. And at the moment that he touched the craft, got a download, a binary code download of information that he wrote on paper, pages and pages of 1 and 0s. And this information was decoded like only 30 years later. And in this message, there was 7 locations that are spread out all over the world. And these are the locations we see here. Sedona was one of them. So essentially, this binary code contained the coordinates of these locations, longitude and latitude of these locations. We got these 7 locations spread out all over the world. The Great Pyramid is one of them, obviously, not surprisingly. Sedona is one of them. I'm not very far from Sedona. The Kanaha Pyramid in Central America. The Nazca Plain, everybody knows about the Nazca Plain. The Temple of Apollo in Greece. The Mount Taishan in China. And of course, the Great Pyramid of Giza. And when we look at these locations here, which are listed on the left side, and we calculate the geometric harmonic distance between these locations and the Great Pyramid of Giza, these locations and the UFO landing site where this UFO landed in Rendlesham Forest, these are the distance in nautical miles. And amazingly, when we submit these distance, to these harmonics, 144 42 golden ratio, we get amazing mathematical relationship. I'm just going to give a couple of examples. If you take here the distance, 4,524 nautical miles, we divide that by harmonic 144, we get exactly the constant pi, the mathematical constant pi, at 99.998% accuracy. It's just stunning. The distance between Sedona and the UFO landing site is not very different. Again, renders the mathematical constant pi. Temple of Apollo, now we ratio over 432. Again, you get the mathematical constant pi at 99% above accuracy, and so on. We get all these relationships when we ratio these harmonic distance with these harmonics, the harmonic of creation, as I call them. We get all these mathematical constant and these relationships at very high degree of accuracy. So Rendlesham itself also encodes these harmonics. And it's said also that in the book that my good friend Gary Osborne co-authored on the subject, and I recommend Gary Osborne's work, who's been doing work on this, amazing work. And again, what I'm showing here is just one aspect of the information encoded in this Rendlesham code, if you will. There's much more to this that Gary covers in his book. But my analysis, when I did my own analysis, I, of course, because of my perspective on this, this is the analysis that I did and rendered all these relationships, clearly rendering the same information. So this completes part 1 of this presentation, which was to demonstrate, give example of my own experiences, experience of other experiencers, example of the Nimitz, Rendlesham Forest Enigma, the Great Pyramid, stuff that, these megalithic constructions that are built all over the place, all over the world, clearly encodes this information, and not only encodes information, and encodes quantum physics, as we saw as well. And this, and after we talked, Rex, back in September 22nd, 2022 was our discussion. The work has evolved tremendously since as well, because the holographic universe, or the universal formula that I presented, really led to much more, which is really a new set of physics equations based on this harmonic, or this geometric harmonics. And this is the slide here that summarizes the work that I've done on this. So what we see here is a new set of physics equation based on this geometric harmonics. They are simplified. We're going to go through them in a bit more details in a second here. These are simplified, but what we see here is that they are all function of the speed of light harmonic. So this harmonic 144, once it's expressed in nautical miles per geometric second, match this harmonic 144. So this is the speed of light harmonic expressed in terms of harmonic is 144. This is represented by the letter C. And those who are, of course, familiar with the famous equation E = mc squared from Einstein, right? The letter C represented the speed of light, right? But it was in a metric system, a different set of units. I'm using geometric harmonics units because the universe is based on geometry, as we're going to demonstrate here. And it all comes down to essentially this speed of light harmonic represented by the letter C and the golden ratio. This harmonic 432 itself is only 3 times 144, right? And let me do it here just to show it, people can see it, right? If we take 144, the speed of light harmonic, and we multiply by 3, we get harmonic 432. So 432 can be represented by 3 times the speed of light harmonic, essentially, right? So it all comes down to essentially 2 ingredients that explains all creation in our holographic universe. The golden ratio principle, like we saw in the video earlier, which is responsible for the division of the fractals, right? We're fractalizing the holographic universe. And this letter C, which is the fundamental harmonic of light, 144, which is this light energy essentially, which is at the source of all creation. And these formula here that I came up with, which they all have a very detailed mathematical background. We're going to see some of it, but I'm going to zap through it very quickly because I don't want to lose the audience, of course. I'm just going to show some of it and try to summarize it as best I can. And some slide, I'm going to flash through them very quickly just for the record. So the slides are on the record. But I've I've good pictures to explain what this is all about. Again, the letter C is the speed of light harmonic. If we look here, the Planck length we talked about earlier, which is at the foundation of quantum physics, right? Which is the smallest oscillation of energy, the smallest pixel of energy at the quantum level, can be represented by this relationship here, the golden ratio squared over 3. 1 over 2 times the speed of light harmonic is the Planck sphere volume, which is the creation of the space, this quantum space. We're going to see that in a second. We're going to see also that we can create all matter, all the periodic table of the elements using this relationship here. 1 over 2 times the speed of light harmonic cubed. Even the Earth gravity acceleration, in terms of gravity harmonics, can be expressed with this very simple equation. Again, these equations are all very simple. And that, I think, how clearly the universe works. We know as complex and amazing and huge the universe can be, it's simple in a sense. There's a simplicity to it. There's a beauty and a simplicity to it. And that's what we see being translated for these equations. The total amount of energy can be represented by this, the oneness of the holographic universe fractalized over 2 golden ratio. Even the volume of the universe is represented by this. This is the equation here that essentially is equivalent to E equal mc squared, but once we represent it in terms of geometric harmonics. So I have kind of introduced this equation, from a harmonic perspective. And then finally, the energy density of the universe can be represented by these. The details for those who are interested in the math, you can look at this information here if you want to do your own calculation, but you will see that it all adds up. And if you recall last time we spoke, Rex, we went through a lot of different examples to show how many things around us were in harmonic resonance with these harmonic of creations, right? We talk about the Schumann resonance with the frequency and the brainwave frequency that are harmonic resonance with the reciprocal of harmonic 144. Even the water molecule itself, which makes up, over 65–70% of our cells and body, which is the most important molecule to life, is in perfect harmonic resonance with 432 and 144 in golden ratio. Human DNA as well. I'm not going to go through that again because we did that in our last presentation. So I encourage the folks out there just to watch our interview from September 22nd of 2022. You will see all these examples. Velocity of stars and galaxies. The flower of life itself, what we saw earlier, is a 2D representation of the 60-40 tetrahedron grid, which is represented here. The energy of the sun and its size also match these harmonics and so on. I mean, it goes through the quantum scale, the Earth grid itself, and all the platonic solids really have a harmonic relationship with these harmonics of light. And what we showed last time also, let me just take a sip of water here, is that even with these 3 ingredients of creation, we can recreate the entirety of our mathematic formulas. If you look at a constant pi, it can be expressed by this, the Euler constant, and so on. So even a conversion of distance from nautical miles to miles and so on, excuse me, kilometers to miles, have an equivalent in terms of these harmonics. So what it comes down to really is we can now demonstrate mathematically, and I'm going to show that briefly in more detail in the next few slides before we end the presentation, But we can demonstrate mathematically that the fundamental harmonic of light 144 harmonic, the speed of light harmonic 144, fractalized through the golden ratio principle, like we saw in the video at the beginning, is in harmonic resonance with all aspects of creation, really. Everything we look around us is in perfect harmonic resonance with that. And there's really almost like a spiritual component to this, because mathematically we can demonstrate that the entirety of the universe and the holographic universe is essentially the creation was done with this spark of light, just this light energy that's fractalized through the golden ratio principle. And that's all what was needed to create the entirety of the universe, visible universe we see and we perceive around us. Just to go a bit deeper in some of these examples, if we look at the classical physics, what you're going to find in physics books, as we saw earlier in a small video, the Planck length, which is the smallest oscillation of energy that can exist at the quantum level, right? If we create a sphere, if we take the Planck length as the diameter of that sphere and we create a sphere, the volume of that sphere, as we can see on the right side here, will be equivalent to harmonic 348. You know, just take that number in mind, keep that number in mind. 348 would be the volume of the smallest sphere of energy that can exist at the quantum scale. In terms of geometric harmonics, we can recreate that sphere simply by the equation I showed earlier, 1 over 2 times the speed of light harmonic. We get an equivalent volume of 347.2, which match what we find in the physics books and classical physics at 99.8% match. So again, we show that we can recreate, we have a representation of reality using this geometric harmonics. If you go on Wikipedia or any physics books, you're going to find that there's an estimate out there about the volume of the universe we live in and the mass of the visible universe, right? So the volume is 3.566 to the power of 80 cubic meter. And the mass of the universe is estimated to be 1.5 by 10 to the power of 53 kilograms. Okay. Now, what's interesting about this is that if we have the mass of the universe, we can turn that mass into energy, right? That is what this equation from Einstein is all about, E equal mc squared, right? We have E is the energy, the mc squared, the m is the mass, and the c squared, the speed of light harmonic squared, right? So if we have the mass of the universe, we can back calculate the energy of the universe using that simple formula. And so I have introduced again my own geometric harmonic formula here. And so let's go to the next slide. So we saw earlier that again, at the Planck scale, you know, we can recreate the Planck sphere volume, the Planck scale, using this relationship, 1 over 2 times the speed of light harmonic 144, which had a match of 99.8% with classical physics. And now, if we look at the volume of the universe now, this is interesting, right? If we take the volume of the universe, I found that we can represent, the volume of the universe is represented by this little equation here, which is the golden ratio over 2 times the speed of light harmonic. And let me do it on the screen just to show you that I'm not making this up. Right, so this is the value of the golden ratio at a high accuracy, 1.618. And we ratio that over 2 times the speed of light harmonics. We divide by 2 times the harmonic 144, these harmonics of creation. And we get 561.8817, which is exactly the volume of the universe. At 99.92% match with classical physics, which is quite remarkable. Now, even more remarkable is if we take now, right, we talk about the Planck sphere as being at the quantum scale, the smallest sphere of energy, right, that can be quantified, represented by this number of 348, right, is the volume. I'm going to omit the details here of the by 10 to the power of this is, I'm just going to focus on these big numbers just to keep it visual for the folks out there. So keep that in mind, right? The volume 448. Now, if we ratio the volume of the universe that we talked about, right? We calculate the volume of the universe, which is found in physics book. We turn that into geometric harmonics, and we ratio that volume over the volume of the universe over the Planck sphere volume. Essentially, we ratio the entirety of the volume of the universe over the smallest thing that can exist at the quantum scale, right? That's represented here that ratio equals the golden ratio, which is absolutely mind-blowing, because what this tells us is that the entirety of the universe, of the visible universe that we see around us, is just a fractal of the Planck scale, of the quantum scale. That's the relationship here. Anyone can go, again, do these calculations, go in the physics books and Wikipedia, pick these numbers, and if you use the right units, the nautical miles, in terms of distance, and to calculate the volumes, that's the relationship you will get, and that's remarkable. The universe is really a quantum fractal. In terms of geometric harmonics, we can, again, using this 1 over 2 times the speed of light harmonic, we have the equivalent here. If we do the same relationship, again, we ratio the entirety of the volume of the universe over the smallest thing that can exist at the Planck scale, we get the golden ratio, but even higher accuracy this time, 99.92%. So this is the mathematical demonstration that the universe, everything is folded within itself. The universe is a quantum fractal of the quantum scale. Everything is folded, this dot of energy, if you will, this holographic universe. This is the absolute ultimate proof of that. We see it mathematically. The other way to represent it, if we used, again, this Planck sphere volume, the smallest sphere of energy at the quantum scale, and we simply multiply it by the golden ratio, we get the volume of the universe. It's represented differently. And the one on top here is represented in terms of these geometric harmonics that I'm introducing tonight, this new set of equations. And if we compare to what we'll get through classical physics, there's a 99.92 match with what you're going to find in classical physics books. Now, let's get back to the golden ratio triangular graph, and I think you're going to find this interesting, Rex. This golden ratio triangular graph that had all these relationships and contained the golden ratio and the geometric harmonics. Now, if we assign, if you look on the upper side here, upper left side, if we assign this side B as the volume of the Planck sphere, right, the smallest sphere of energy at the Planck scale, the volume we said is 348.2. Mathematically, because of the shape of this triangular craft, the length of the segment at the bottom here will be 560.97, which is equivalent to the volume of the universe. So this graph, the golden ratio triangular graph, appears to be a tool that the intelligence has given us to help us establish these relationships between the quantum scale to the scale of the entire universe, the macrocosm and the entire scale of the universe. The mathematics is undeniable. And there's a 99% match between the volume of the universe that you're going to find in the physics books and what that golden ratio triangular graph renders once we assign this side B as the Planck sphere scale or the Planck sphere volume.
Makes me think of the universe as, in the beginning was the word.
Yeah.
Like the word is a frequency, and the frequency is and geometry seems to run throughout the universe itself. I mean, this is remarkable.
It is. And what's amazing is this is all, the math is so perfect in the sense that the math works so perfectly, and it's so simple in the sense. You saw this set of equations I showed at the beginning. It was just simple. It's just simple, like the E equal MC squared type of thing, right? But we can recreate the entirety of our physics and our quantum physics using two ingredients: the speed of light harmonic 144, and the golden ratio principle. That's all we need to recreate the entirety of our physical reality or our perception. Even Plato, if we look at Plato here, according to a recent theory, the universe could be a dodecahedron in terms of its structure. And that's what Plato actually said. Plato used a dodecahedron to describe the cosmos, and stated that at the beginning, essentially, the universe came together, just in one instant of creation, just like that. So I started, and this is the work that I've been doing over the last several weeks and the last 3-4 months more intensively, using this geometric harmonics we talked about, this harmonic 144, 432 golden ratio. I started charging essentially the volume of these platonic solids with these harmonics and see, what we will get out of it. Now, here's an example here that just blew my mind. When I did this calculation, I was just not expecting any of it, to be honest. It just exploded in my face when I saw it, and I was stunned by the accuracy of this mathematics. If we take a dodecahedron at the bottom left here, which has 12 faces, it's made of 12 pentagons, and we assign the segment A here, right? The length of this segment A here, once you determine it mathematically, it's going to determine the entirety of the volume of your dodecahedron, right? All you need essentially is the length of this side A, and that's going to determine what your dodecahedron, what size it's going to be, what volume it's going to be, and so on. So I assigned it about 2 times the Planck length, right? Again, the Planck length is the quantum scale. We take 2 times the smallest pixel of energy that can exist at the quantum scale, and we assign that side A as being that. If we do that, and mathematically, which I did, calculated the volume, the total volume of the dodecahedron, when we assign this side A as 2 times the Planck length, it happens to be that the total volume of the dodecahedron matches exactly the energy of our sun. What I mean by that is if you go online and you find the mass of the sun, which is 1.987 by 10 to the power of something, I have it in the next slide, kilograms of, right? This is the mass of the sun. As I said, we can turn this mass into energy if you use the ancient equation E = mc squared. You can do that, but I use my own geometric harmonic equation that I developed to do that. So because we're talking about geometric harmonics here, if we calculate the amount of energy from the mass of the sun, that will be equivalent exactly to the volume of those dodecahedron when the length A is equal to the Planck length. And even more surprisingly, the volume of the sphere inside, the inscribed sphere, which can all be calculated mathematically again, which I did. That volume will be equivalent to the energy of the entire visible universe at 99.95% match. So if we look, as I said, you go to Wikipedia on the physics books, you're going to find the estimate of the mass of the universe. You turn that into energy. That harmonic energy matches exactly the volume of that inscribed sphere within this dodecahedron here, which is stunning, and which is, in a sense, the demonstration that what Plato was postulating was probably right. That the universe is created by a dodecahedron structure with an inscribed sphere inside. Because the energy, when we do these calculations, they add up and they match exactly. So this is really a new science here we're talking about, a new physics, because we're combining geometric harmonics with the platonic solids. These platonic solids are essentially the crucible of creation. We charge these platonic solids with this light energy, this harmonic of light 144, 432 fractalized for the golden ratio. We charge this platonic solid with this harmonics energy, and we can recreate the entirety of our universe. And in this case, we even see that it matches the energy of our sun, which is stunning. I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide here, but I just want to show that this is the detailed calculation that led to what we just talked about, right? The energy of the universe is 1.5 by 10 to the power 53 kilogram. Using this harmonic equation that I developed, we can turn that into harmonic energy, and that harmonic energy matches the volume of the inscribed sphere within that dodecahedron at 99.95% accuracy. Same principle of the energy of the sun. This matches exactly the energy of the sun. So we go essentially, and the reason why I found it amazing is that if you look, we started with 2 times the Planck length here, right? Which is the quantum scale. We start with the quantum scale, and it's the quantum scale is being fractalized for the golden ratio and matches the energy of our sun, which is the macro scale, right? That we can see up to the size of the entire universe. I have another representation here that I found very interesting, and we assign this time, if we change tune a bit, and we assign this side A as being harmonic 432, and we calculate the total volume of those dodecahedron, we will end up with the reciprocal of the golden ratio again, which is these famous numbers we saw throughout the presentation, which is again Chichen Itza is based on that. The tetrahedron, 64 tetrahedron grid, when we fractalize the oneness or the entire holographic universe through the golden ratio principle, we end up with the same relationship here, the same harmonics. So we really see here a picture emerging like these platonic solids charged with these harmonics or at the root of creation. And all we need is this fundamental harmonic of light 144 in the golden ratio principle. Here's another one here that's probably one of the most part of the presentation in terms of the implications of this, is how matter, how the material world is created, how the entire periodic table of the elements is created based on what we just talked about. I showed here that if we use this, I developed this equation here, which is very simple. Again, it's like E equal mc squared type of equation, but we just take 1 over 2 times the speed of light harmonic cube. That relationship here is responsible for the creation of all the visible universe we live in. It matches the mass of the proton of the neutron at 99.98% and the proton at 99.9%. And as you know, the neutron and protons is what makes up all the elements of our periodic table. This is the essence of creation, really. And I have a bit more detail here. Let me show you the example of what I'm talking about. Right? If you recall at the beginning, we talked about the Planck sphere volume, right? The quantum space, the quantum scale. The smallest sphere of energy that can exist with that volume, 347.2. And we ratio that over the fundamental harmonic of light, speed of light harmonic 144 squared. That gives birth, as I said, to the neutron and a proton at very high degree of accuracy. And let me show you on the screen, because it's so simple that even a high school student can do it. Really, these calculations are really, really simple. Let me do it on the screen. So we say we take this harmonic 347.2, which is the quantum scale Planck sphere volume, and we ratio that over the speed of light harmonic 144 squared. And what we get is 1.6745 if we round it. Okay, we have it here, 1.6745, and look at the mass of the neutron, 1.6749. So there's 99.98% match. And the proton is not very far from that, 1.6726, which is 99.9% match. So essentially the matter, the entire periodic table, can be created, or entire visible universe is created using this principle, this fundamental harmonic of light, this spark of light energy, which is condensed, if you will, concentrated within this Planck sphere volume that we talked about. And that's what makes up the visible universe we live in. Just flashing this slide here quickly to show how I came, how are this simple formula developed? They come from more complex equation, you can see, but this is what we started with here. As I said, we did it on a calculator a minute ago. And if we simplify this, we end up with this very simple formula here that represents how matter is created. And that explains everything. And we talk about how we can convert matter into energy. I mean, we're all familiar with the E equal mc squared from Einstein, the general relativity equation. This is classical physics. What I developed is the geometric harmonic equivalent to that, which is very simple also. It's the energy is equal to mass over 3 times the golden ratio. This is the geometric harmonic version of it. And again, I'm going to flash quickly through this, but I just wanted to add this on the record. If you recall, we started with this universal formula for the light encoded reality matrix, and I did mathematical simplification transformation of that. And out of this equation, we can extract the c-square component we see here, right? You see the c-square, and the c-square is equivalent to this, and that's what we substitute into the general relativity equation of Einstein, and we end up with this set of beautiful geometric harmonic equation here. And this is what we used earlier to calculate the energy of the universe. Well, since we have the estimated mass of the universe, using this equation, we calculate the energy. And we came up with, when we do that, you see, we end up that we calculate the energy of the universe being equivalent to this relationship here. Essentially, the entire holographic universe, which is fractalized through 2 golden ratio at 99.9994% match with classical physics, which is remarkable because the math is so perfect of this level of accuracy that it shows that our universe is based on geometry and is based on this fundamental harmonic of light energy fractalized for the golden ratio. I mean, this number comes over and over again. This is the demonstration of what I just talked about, how we start with the mass of the universe, we convert that into energy, and that energy is equivalent to 1/2 times the golden ratio. That's what I just talked about. And here's an interesting one also, which I found absolutely fascinating. And there's again, also here, almost a spiritual component to these equations. If we take the entirety of the energy in the universe we talked about, right? We calculate from the mass of the universe, we calculate the energy, and we ratio that energy over the volume of the Planck scale, the smallest sphere of energy that can exist at quantum level. That ratio will be equivalent exactly to 144 over golden ratio. Or since 144 can be represented by the letter C, it's C over, or the speed of light harmonic over the golden ratio. So this spark of light energy, this harmonic 144, which has at the source of creation, fractalized through the golden ratio, is the density of the energy that we're talking about. Now, what we did here was ratioing the energy of the universe over the smallest thing at the quantum scale, right? But if we ratio that energy of the entire universe over the volume of the universe to have the energy density of the universe itself, it's the same thing, except we get harmonic 144 divided by the golden ratio squared. This is what the energy density of the universe is, based on all the calculations we talked about at a very high degree of accuracy. And as you see here, we're talking about going from the quantum scale to the macrocosm to the entire universe. It's all lining up and obey these energies, these harmonics of energy and the golden ratio, which has been communicated by the intelligence through various means, as we saw at the beginning of this presentation, and through ancient sacred sites, through my own sightings, to sightings of other people. Here's I'm going to go quickly through this, but to have it on the record. This is the math that's behind what I just talked about. So folks can just take a screenshot of it. This one as well, show the energy density of the universe. And finally, I have only maybe a handful of slides left, and then we'll complete the presentation for tonight. Now, if we take the Milky Way, the galaxy that we live in, right? The Milky Way. If you look online, you will find that the mass of the Milky Way is 1.5 trillion times the mass of our sun, 1.5 trillion solar mass. Again, if we convert that into a energy using the harmonic equation that I talked about, that I described, equal the mass over 3 times golden ratio, we end up with an energy equivalent to 0.61447 in terms of harmonic energy, which is also the reciprocal of the golden ratio at 99.4%. So the energy of a Milky Way, the galaxy we live in, we convert all this mass into energy in terms of harmonic energy. It's exactly equivalent to the reciprocal of the golden ratio here. And it's absolutely stunning at 99.4% match. And finally, the last portion I want to cover is about gravity harmonics, right? So we talk about mass, we talk about the volume of the Planck scale in the universe. Now, what about gravity, right? Gravity is a very, very important aspect of it. If we look at the Earth gravity acceleration, or the acceleration on the Earth surface, I found, doing all the math, that we can simplify the Earth gravity acceleration by this little formula here. 2 times the speed of light harmonic squared. And this matches the Earth gravity acceleration at 99.9% compared to our classical physics. This is how I did it. And what's remarkable, if you look here on the left side, this is the same stuff that comes back again. We use again this Planck sphere volume, this crucible of creation, the smallest sphere of energy at the quantum scale, the Planck sphere, and we charge it. We take this harmonic of light, this spark of light energy, we ratio that over this Planck sphere, and we do the math. We end up with this harmonic here, 41.472. And if we compare to what the classical physics, what we have, I mean, we know that the gravity acceleration on the Earth's surface is 9.78 meter per squared second. We end up with the same number, essentially, at 99.9% match. So we can represent the gravity acceleration of Earth using this simple equation here. This is part of the set of equation I showed at the beginning. And amazingly, if we ratio this harmonic or this Earth gravity acceleration over the mass of planet Earth itself, right? So that gives us a gravity density per mass unit. And again, this is the real stuff we're going to find online, the mass of the Earth. This equals, again, this reciprocal of harmonic 144 at a very high degree of accuracy. And if you convert that, by the way, into a frequency, it equals the Schumann resonance frequency at a very high degree of accuracy. And this is stunning. This is really stunning because now we're tying volume, mass, and now we're talking about gravity, the essence or the, where gravity is coming from using these light harmonics. And if we look even in our solar system, things are not different. Everything in our universe obeys by the same rules. If we look at the gravity acceleration of the planet Venus, for instance, and Uranus, amazingly, they have the same gravity acceleration, 8.87 meter by square second. Well, we realize if we convert that into, again, geometric harmonics, the gravity acceleration of Venus and Uranus is exactly equivalent to harmonic 144 times golden ratio squared at 99.9% match. The math is undeniable. And the Earth gravity of planet Earth itself is equivalent to 2 times the speed of light harmonic 144 squared. Again, at 99.9% match. They're all at 99.9% match, all these figures here. So this completes this presentation. I just have 3 more slides. Quickly, I'm going to zap through for the record. For those who are interested to do their own mathematical calculations, there are a couple of things I want to mention here, right? Again, in harmonic mathematics, we're looking at, we can slide a decimal left or right, or we can ignore the zeros, if you will. So all these numbers at the bottom you see here are equivalent in terms of harmonics. The other thing, the tool you're going to need to do your own calculation to convert the Earth time into geometric time, right? Because that's how we can see all these figures, all this new perspective on physics and on our reality. This new perspective comes from using the proper units that are in sync, that are compatible with geometry, because the universe, everything in our universe is based on geometry, and that's what we demonstrated tonight. So if we take the Earth time and we use the double square root of the golden ratio, you're going to be able to convert the regular time that we are using in our day-to-day life into a geometric time. I'm not going to go into the detail why, but that's the tool you're going to need to do that. And finally, the distance, if you look at distance between, let's say, the Great Pyramid, a certain ancient sacred site on the Earth, again, we use the nautical miles unit, which is, again, in sync or compatible with geometric harmonics. And this slide describes it. You can just take a screenshot and it explains why that is. And this completes my presentation for tonight.
Wow, man. Not only was this amazing, but I'm going to have to go back and probably watch this about 3 or 4 times just to grasp it all. Thank you so much for an amazing interview. And how do people find your work? I'm going to show up your YouTube channel right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I do have a YouTube channel where you're going to see the video we saw tonight, plus more videos. You're going to see, it's called C5 Videos. That's my YouTube channel. Again, all the analysis we saw tonight in terms of the sightings, you're going to find the videos on that. You're going to find some interviews as well. And I'm working on a site that I'm going to release soon, a website that's going to be www.myfirstcontact.com, myfirstcontact.com. I'm going to release very soon, and you're going to find more information. And Again, I'm presenting this material now on different platforms, and so you're going to be able to follow me. Also on Facebook, there's some private groups of CE5 and Human Initiated Contact Group. You're going to be able to find my information. And so it's very exciting. And I want to thank you, Rex, for the opportunity tonight. I know it's a lot of material. And, you know, it was a big challenge for me because I wanted to be able to, you know, get this information out there to the public. This is not proprietary. There's no patent. For me, I'm doing this work for free. I'm not selling anything. This is for the betterment of humanity. And I think this information needs to be out there, been utilized, so we can recreate the real physics that's behind our reality. And clearly that the non-human intelligences that have been using and communicating to humanity for thousands of years, and is encoded everywhere. And it's just a matter for us to take that information and use it for the betterment of humanity.
Right on. Well, Jimmy, it was an honor. Please, let's do this again soon. And I'd like to talk to you some more off air and keep being the change you want to see.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Rex. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody, for being here, watching the live stream.